Understand this. There was once an alliance of 4 great races in the galaxy. The Asgard, the Nox,
Met them.
the Furlings,
Don't know them.
and the Ancients, the builders of the Stargates.
It's a pretty heady group.
One of the great strengths of the Stargate franchise is its deep lore, built up over 17 seasons and multiple movies. Every story was set against the backdrop of a larger universe, as the SG-1, Atlantis, and Destiny teams explored the galaxies, and uncovered more about the ancient races who once walked among the stars, including the gate builders themselves. From the discovery of an ancient meeting hall at Heliopolis, to Jack O'Neill's first encounter with the Asgard, and from Elizabeth Weir's meeting living ancients 10,000 years in Atlantis past, to Nicholas Rush's discovery of the secrets of the Destiny research project. The history of the 4 great races and the alliance they forged with one another stands at the heart of Stargate's mythology. But who are these 4 species? When were they working alongside one another? And why did their alliance come to an end? Let's dig into the history of the 4 races and the alliance they once had. An alliance that was already old, thousands of years before Earth unlocked its Stargate. Watch out for spoilers if you haven't watched SG-1, Atlantis, and SGU yet. Earth's first steps into the big wide galaxy proved that for all their technological dominance today, the Goa'uld didn't build the Stargates. The galaxy-spanning network of portals is tens of millions of years older, and the team slowly discovered more and more signs of other advanced races, including those who engineered the Gate network. Some of those older races might still be around. The discovery of a once great meeting hall gave us the first hard evidence. On the planet nicknamed Heliopolis, the team found not just the long-lost Ernest Littlefield, but a crumbling palace about to fall into the sea. Here, a group of 4 races met long ago, a sort of United Nations of the Stars, according to Dr. Littlefield. The meeting hall was flanked by inscriptions of their 4 languages. A central pedestal projected the elements of the periodic table, the building blocks of their communication. After accidentally downloading the knowledge of the ancients into his brain, Colonel Jack O'Neill found his way to one of these races. He dialed an 8-chevron address to reach an Asgard colony in another galaxy. There, the Asgard saved his life and revealed the truth of the ancient coalition. The Asgard were once allied with the Nox, the Furlings, and the Ancients, their name for the gate builders who moved on from our region of space long ago. Humans still had much to prove before the Asgard would treat them as equals, but Earth had already taken the first steps toward one day becoming the 5th race in this historic alliance. But what was the nature of their alliance? When did it take place and why did it end? Before we take up these questions, let's meet the 4 races themselves. One of the most technologically advanced races still on the scene when Stargate Command began sending out teams are the Asgard. Their civilization is something on the order of 100,000 years old, according to this Asgard from the Atlantis episode The Lost Tribe. Ironically, that might make the Asgard the youngest race among the 4. Although the Asgard are not native to our galaxy, they have operated in the Milky Way for millennia. Their ships are capable of rapid intergalactic travel, and they have visited Earth many times. They took on personas from Norse mythology, or perhaps they were responsible for those tales in the first place, including Thor, Loki, and Heimdall. Here in the Milky Way, the Asgard safeguarded many worlds through a protected planets treaty with the Goa'uld system lords, eventually including Earth itself. According to Daniel Jackson, the Asgard home galaxy is called Othala, though they have been active in other galaxies as well. Colonel O'Neill visited an Asgard planet also called Othala in the galaxy of Ida, and a splinter group settled in the Pegasus galaxy 10 millennia ago. Earth learned more about the benevolent Asgard and their own tragic story as SG-1 forged an alliance with them. When the team rescued the scientist Heimdall from a secret laboratory, he revealed that he was studying the remains of an Asgard who was put into suspended animation about 30,000 years ago. This being is much taller and more human-like than modern Asgard, suggesting that they once looked more like the other races in the Alliance. The Asgard hoped that the discovery of this ancestor would help them to reverse the existential problem that threatened their entire species. They're all clones, having lost the ability to reproduce sexually countless generations ago. The Nox are also quite human-like. Their common dress and appearance is very woodsy, showing a deep symbiosis with the forest and with the natural world, which Earth does not fully understand. Their connection with nature might even play a part in their astonishing abilities, including the ability to turn objects and animals invisible, to heal injuries, and even the ability to revive people from the dead. It's no surprise then that SG-1's first encounter with the Nox left them with the impression that these forest dwellers are primitive. They tried to help protect a Nox family from Apophis and his Jaffa, only to discover that the Nox are more than capable of protecting themselves. The team made an ally, but today the Nox are pacifists and isolationists. Antaeus asked the humans from Earth to leave their world, and he promised to bury their Stargate. This wasn't the last time that SG-1 encountered the Nox, though. Using technology from a group of Tolan refugees, they sent a signal, and the Nox Laia arrived by Stargate to offer refuge to Omok and his people. 2 years later, the Tolan again called upon Laia to serve as a judge in a trial to settle the dispute between Skara and Chlorel, the Goa'uld that had taken over his body. It's hard to imagine the modern-day Nox ever having been in an alliance with other races, actively working toward their shared galactic interests. Evidently, they were not always isolationist, but only avoided allowing their technology and their abilities to be exploited by younger races. The Nox regard humans from Earth as the very young, who do not always do as they are told. Even after 17 seasons of mythology, we still know very little about the Furlings. The story that was spun as part of Martin Lloyd's Wormhole Extreme movie in the episode 200, when SG-1 met the Furlings, only to see them obliterated by the Goa'uld, didn't actually happen. Earth only learned about them when the Asgard told Colonel O'Neill about the 4 races. But to date, no team from Earth has ever encountered a living Furling. Even remnants of their technology are rare in the Milky Way. In 10 years of exploration, spanning hundreds of worlds, we know of only one planet with remnants left behind by this advanced race. Colonel Harry Mayborn's rogue NID agents found a planet with a Furling transportation arch, along with the key to activate it. The device connects to the planet's moon, where long ago the Furlings created a multi-species utopia, evidently eschewing technology and living closer to nature. They invited people from other races to join them there, and many came, including the Goa'uld, who smuggled a hallucinogenic plant into the colony. The residents ended up turning on one another, and no one survived. In the end, this discovery told us little about the Furlings themselves, beyond their idealism. The remains found at the colony might have included Furlings, or they might have all belonged to those other races who joined them. The remains of the Furling civilization back on the planet's surface suggests that they died off or left this world behind long ago. Of course, there are thousands of planets in our galaxy with stargates that Earth hasn't explored, so it's possible that the Furlings are out there, still living on other worlds in the Milky Way. Perhaps, like the Nox, they were never much interested in colonizing other planets. On the other hand, because they left almost no trace, it could be that the Furlings are not native to our part of space at all. Like the Asgard and the Ancients, they might have migrated to the Milky Way from another galaxy, and after the collapse of the Alliance returned home or moved on. The Asgard referred to the Gate Builders as the Ancients, who were many millions of years old even when the Asgard were young. They were originally called Alterans, who left their homeworld and came to the Milky Way after an ideological split with another faction, the Ori. This was somewhere on the order of tens of millions of years ago, and when they arrived here, they probably found few, if any, other evolved peoples. Piecing together what we've learned about the Ancients over time, we know that they eventually made their way to Earth. As their civilization and their technology grew, they built great cities and developed subspace teleportation technology. The Alterans seeded thousands of stargates all across the galaxy, allowing for instantaneous transportation and connecting numerous Alteran colony worlds. But eventually, the Ancients faced an existential threat that even their eons of accumulated knowledge could not solve. A great plague swept across the galaxy, wiping out whole colonies, and threatening to bring an end to the Alteran people. There's no direct evidence that this plague was deliberately caused by the Ori, who don't seem to have been aware or all that interested in the Alteran activities in the Milky Way. Several million years ago, a group of uninfected Alterans left, taking the crown jewel of their civilization, the city of Atlantis, to start over in the Pegasus galaxy. Most of those left behind appear to have died out, although not before using their technology on the planet Dakara to seed the galaxy with new life, including human beings on Earth, made in their own image. In Pegasus, this group of Alterans called themselves Lanteans, after their great city. They colonized this new galaxy and eventually seeded it with human life as well, and the younger races came to know them as the Ancestors. But the Lanteans also inadvertently brought about the evolution of the Wraith, who over the course of many millennia grew to become a spacefaring power in their own right, even challenging the ancients themselves. They went to war, and the surviving Lanteans submerged Atlantis beneath the ocean and returned to Earth through the Stargate. This was only 10,000 years ago, and it was probably at this time that the few surviving ancients cracked the secrets of Ascension. We know Lanteans had been actively studying Ascension, and that before this, the plague had claimed countless Alterans. Shedding their mortal form, these ancients moved on to a higher plane of existence, continuing on as beings of pure energy, who are now unconcerned with the activities of mortal beings. The ancients' timeline is complex, given their long history, different splinter groups, and the impact of the plague. So when in all of this history were they actively allied with the Asgard, the Nox, and the Furlings? There are two possible points to locate the alliance in the timeline. First, some of the Alterans who used the Dakara device to reseed life in the Milky Way after it was devastated by the plague could have survived the plague and lived on. It took millions of years for human life to evolve again on Earth, and if these ancients were still around on a colony world, they might have encountered the other races through gate travel. Did they put a Stargate on the Nox home planet only after meeting them? These ancients also would have encountered the Asgard after they became spacefaring and reached our galaxy. But the Asgard only have 100,000 years of recorded history, putting the alliance between 10,000 and 100,000 years ago. Since we don't actually know that anyone suffering from the plague survived, Iona was found alone and frozen in the ice on Earth, it's more likely that the alliance was much more recent, within the past 10,000 years. This would mean that the ancients, as the other races knew them, were not survivors of the plague, but the refugees from Atlantis, and their descendants. Not everyone ascended. The Lanteans returned to Earth through the Antarctic Gate, and immediately left to resettle on other planets. This is the era of Moros, a member of the Lantean ruling council who went on to become the legendary Merlin, later returning to Earth and interacting with its people and with King Arthur's court. Merlin was among those who learned to ascend, granting him near immortality, as well as knowledge of the secrets of the universe. The alliance likely flourished some years after the Lanteans returned from Pegasus, but before they ascended, at which point they became disinterested in the so-called lower races. This also explains why the meeting hall on Heliopolis appears to be thousands of years old, but probably not tens of thousands. It was still standing, but collapsed into the sea soon after SG-1's visit. When the Asgard told Colonel O'Neill that the ancients moved on long ago, it would have been referencing not their migration to Pegasus or another galaxy, but their ascension. So what was the purpose of the Great Alliance? We know that it came about gradually, forged over the course of many millennia. Even if they were friendly, these four races were not eager to immediately share their knowledge and technology with one another. But after many generations, a pact of mutual cooperation emerged, possibly motivated by a common cause, perhaps an enemy that threatened all of them, an invader of the Milky Way that forced them to join their military forces. Or perhaps the alliance came about through a more positive goal, such as shepherding the younger races who were now coming of age, in order to preserve the galaxy's future after the four races were gone. One of these younger races was probably the Goa'uld, who were far too young to threaten the four races. After taking Unas as their first hosts, the Goa'uld learned to use the Stargates and left their planet. They found advanced technologies on other worlds, especially technology left behind by the ancients. Motivated and highly intelligent, but parasitic in nature, the Goa'uld learned to adapt and exploit these technologies over time to build their empire. from weapons and ships to the sarcophagus, which granted them unusually long life. Although they're not canon, Stargate's role-playing game suggests this was the case. The Ancients, the Asgard, the Nox, and the Furlings each took one of the younger races under their care, attempting to instill their values, and helping them to evolve and to learn as they began to explore the galaxy for themselves and to make contact with other species. The 2021 RPG introduced the Aturan, a younger race that had adopted the Nox's habits and philosophy. While we don't know for certain that the four races shared their technology with one another, the Asgard had access to the Ancients' repository of knowledge but barely scratched the surface of what it contained, it is worth noting that they have several things in common. Most, or perhaps all of them, were spacefaring and had developed hyperspace travel, and most, if not all four, possessed some version of matter-energy teleportation. The Ancients built the Stargates, and probably ring transporters. The Asgard had their own transporter technology, and the Furlings built their archway. They also all mastered Stargate technology. Both the Nox and the Asgard have the ability to activate a gate instantly without the ordinary dialing sequence. While it's certainly possible that the races developed these technologies independently, it seems likely that they shared this knowledge between them while they were allied. Whatever brought about the alliance of four great races, it seems to have ended when the Ancients learned to ascend. Each species went its separate way thousands of years ago. The Nox embraced their pacifist nature, retreating from discourse with species on other worlds and growing more isolationist. The Furlings may have been wiped out or departed for a new start in another galaxy. And the Asgard returned home, now embracing research into cloning in order to sustain their species, and were eventually swept up by a new conflict with the Replicators. The development of the younger races didn't seem to much interest the Nox, but the Asgard did take a special interest in humans. They studied people on Earth in secret over many generations, and apparently discovered vestiges of ancient DNA in some modern-day humans, suggesting that at some point after the Lanteans returned from Pegasus, some of them stayed on Earth and intermingled with its people. The Asgard also became protectors of dozens of worlds, such as Cimmeria and K'tau, when their peoples came under renewed threat by the Goa'uld. But Earth's discovery of a Stargate, long buried in the sands of Giza after the rebellion against the Goa'uld, put into motion events that would change everything. Daniel Jackson helped to unlock the secrets of the gate, and Samantha Carter's team operationalized it through the painstaking development of a dialing computer. Jack O'Neill led a team through the Stargate, recruiting the former First Prime Teal'c to his team. As SG-1 encountered new worlds and met many of these races, young and old, Earth established a presence on the galactic stage that could not be ignored. Even the mighty Goa'uld had to sit up and take notice. Through their courage, ingenuity, and compassion, humans from Earth proved themselves as worthy allies to the Asgard, one of the last of the Great Alliance. As the Asgard civilization itself reached its final hour, they chose to leave the legacy of their knowledge and their technology with Earth. Supreme Commander Thor bid farewell to his friends with these words.
You are the fifth race. Your role is clear. If there is any hope in preserving the future, it lies with you and your people.
No pressure, huh?
Visit us over at gateworld.net to explore more Stargate mythology and leave a comment below to let us know what you'd like to see on the channel next. A big thanks to Gateworld's channel members. Your support helps us to be able to make deep dive lore videos like this one. If you're interested in supporting the channel and seeing videos early, look for the join button below the video on a desktop browser. A special thanks to those who joined at the patron level, whose names you can see on screen right now. Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video, here's a deep dive into everything we know about the Furlings, including some provocative theories from Stargate's licensed merch that never made it on screen.